Good morning. Sorry. Well, where to begin? I would say, yes. We'll come to that. I would like to say that due to the fact that the most questions now arise related to the new elections in United States and the elections happening in Europe, and how does that connect to all the geopolitical issues in Ukraine and in the countries further to the east. My belief is that we have come to a point where it is fair to say that the strategy of the way that we helped Ukraine during the 3-year period, almost 1,000 days, has failed. A peace through de-escalation is a failing and failed strategy. We need a new one. We need a strategy that would come from strength. The same strategy that has been asked by Baltic states, by Ukraine itself, by others who really support Ukraine, that we need strength. And when I'm talking strength, I'm talking weapons, I'm talking about real removal of all restrictions and actually a winning strategy. From the winning strategy, we could come to a point where all the phone calls, everything would actually make sense. Because now they don't. Because we are still in the de-escalation strategy mode. And that has failed. So I'm hopeful that we can put a stop end to this and really come back with the new strength, with the new administrations to this situation and find an actual solution and an actual support to Ukraine that would help Ukraine win.
So first question on Ukraine, please. So Biden decided that there will be released long missiles. What is your point on this, and should we do the same?
Well, of course. I mean, that has been a point that we and Ukrainians have been asking for a very long time, in even broader sense, that all the restrictions have to be removed. Why I'm not, opening a champagne just yet is probably because we don't know the actual numbers of how many rockets Ukrainians do have. So the question is, are they provided enough rockets that would make a difference in the battlefield? Because we're not fighting a battle in the press, we're fighting a battle actually in Ukraine. And this is where we need to win. So good arguments in the press release, it's very important, but we need to win there. The second thing is whether the restrictions have been actually removed, because I've seen in the press report that it's partially. So again, a lot of questions, and I would like to remind that coming from strength position, no limitations apart from international law have to be implied on Ukraine. And actual amounts of equipment have to be delivered. So in principle, that is a good decision. I'm happy that it's finally made. It is unfortunate that so many arguments have been used in the past why it is not possible, that the targets have been moved, that it's not needed, and so on and so forth. And now suddenly the impossible becomes possible. So I hope that other things that are currently possible, such as security guarantees for Ukraine, that it also becomes possible, rather sooner than later.
About Georgia now, about Georgia. Today you will discuss this issue. Is it possible to launch an international investigation over this issue? Because Georgian people are still in streets protesting today, and they had this night in the cold winter days in Tbilisi, and they are arguing, and they are protesting, and they are demanding snap elections.
Well, which additional measures do you have on the table?
Well, look, couple of things. So first of all, Lithuanian position. So we do not consider elections that have taken place in Georgia be free and fair. Secondly, Lithuania has called for independent international investigation, because for the countries to actually know how we define the election, how what path it sets Georgia on, what path it sets Ukraine on. For us to know clear answers, we have to actually understand what happened, and for that we need investigation. That's why we've put these measures. If Georgian government would refuse to cooperate with the European Commission on this, refuse the investigation, that also tells you something. If they don't want us to know what happened, that means that they are not really that all the pretense of Europe still, of Georgia still being on a European path, well, it's not really a thing. Whether it is possible to have a consensus in EU on this, it's tough to say. I have a sense that it's rather difficult. And even sanctioning, yes. Even sanctioning, yes. There is no easy path to this. But on the other hand, the question that has to be raised, when we are talking about the isolationism in United States, right, where the country is more looking inwards, Europe also, with your help, has to ask itself a question: isn't Europe being isolate itself? Why we're not being able to find a solution to Georgia and what Georgian people are asking? Maybe Europe is also too started to looking inwards. And if that progresses, that's a very dangerous path, not just for Georgia, but for Georgia, for Moldova, for Ukraine, and for Europe itself.
So what should we expect today, Minister?
Well, constructive and nice debate, I'm sure. And whether that leads to something else, well, that remains to be seen. I declared my position. We will try to rally as many countries as possible, but we'll see.
What do you think of Trump?
Sorry.
Minister, you seem pretty unimpressed by Chancellor Scholz's call with President Putin. Can you tell us more?
Well, in my initial remarks, I've mentioned that, look, I'm not in principle against any, calling or reach out, but it has to come from a position of strength, not from the position of weakness, because if it does, then Russians will abuse it. And they clearly are doing exactly that with the massive new rocket barrages against Ukraine's civil infrastructure, against energy. So what does it help? Why we're doing this? It's very difficult for me to understand this. If we would be able to provide Ukraine with everything that it needs, right, at least, certain missiles that Germany has, and then say, okay, look, this is it. This is an ultimatum. These are the red lines. And then, yes, okay, let's figure out what the other side thinks about it. But when we're not providing, we're being slow, we're being weak, we're portraying weakness, and then you call, what does a person like Putin think about it? Well, keep calling. And I will continue attacking. That's at least trained strategy. I'm sorry.
Another question on
military drones. What is your current understanding? Is China providing military drones to Russia? And if so, what should be the EU response to that?
Well, my understanding is yes, that they are providing, and China is actually one of the main supporters of Russia's military activity in Ukraine. I think, as with many cases, we don't know what to do. We're too afraid of what China's reaction might be, and so many other things, and therefore we're also portraying weakness. We have to stand firm, and especially since in this we have a very strong transatlantic partnership possibility, right? Because United States, they went ahead. They are sanctioning Chinese companies. They're sanctioning Chinese individuals. So with this cooperation, we could send a very strong message that this is something that we are not going to allow. If we're not doing that, well, it helps solidify this chaos coalition that is forming, with the help of Russia. And in this, I include Iran, North Korea, Belarus, and China. And this is the coalition that's formed around Russia in order to sow havoc, not just in Ukraine, but in the Western world. And we need to stop it.
What do you say to the critics who say that if you let Ukraine attack even deeper into Russian territory, it could lead to even greater escalation of the war?
Well, look, allowing a country to defend itself is not an escalation. It's a principle that is enshrined in the UN Charter. If we don't allow Ukraine to be defended, I'm sorry, but then Ukraine might lose, and we might lose as well. And with that, I conclude this doorstep, and this is my final FAC, and I would like to thank all the media corps that has been standing for the truth and as a very strong pillar of democracy here in the West and elsewhere. Thank you so much, and all the best to you. Bye-bye.